In this video, we're going to continue to talk about materials in Octane, and we're going to explore more nodes. We're going to see how we can build up materials using different layers. So we can stack layers on top of layers on top of layers using different effects, and we can mix them together. We can make them overlap and so on. So in the previous video, we saw how to apply different effects, like for example, the tune effect, and we worked with the specularity and a little bit with the transmission, and we saw how we can create a fake 3D effect using a bump or a normal, like right here on the pavement and on the wall, but also how we can use the displacement, which is more realistic effect because it's actually extruding like polygons. The bricks in this case of the wall are actually extruded, and this is not a fake 3D, it's an actual 3D. So if we get real close, we can see the bricks there being extruded. And now we're gonna explore more. So this is like an effect that you can get by using an emission, but starting from the textures of the bricks. So everything you import, everything you use here in Octane as a texture or as a procedural map can be reused for other purposes and for other effects. It's just a matter of creativity and a matter of knowing the tools that you have at your disposal. So when you start to mix and match and experiment, you will create your own beautiful materials using any effects that you like. So you can see right here, I just used the texture in the emission. I just used the black and white textures in the emission, inverting the black and white so that I got the, well, actually I used the subtract texture, which is also kind of inverting node. So it's a node used to invert. So if I use multiply, it's going to like blend two different textures together, like a simple color and the textures of the bricks. If I use subtract, it goes like in the opposite, and it basically creates that emission effect. But you can create an emission effect just by inverting the textures, as we already saw in other videos. Now this is the difference right here between the displacement and the bump. You can see that especially on the edges, it's more visible. So this is something that you need to get real close to see. So just think about if you want to use a displacement or a bump, because displacement is a way more heavier effect than the bump. And this one here, instead on the couch, this is a sheen effect. Now sheen can be used to simulate fabrics like velvet, something real soft, and it's just another layer that you place on top. So let me just delete this material now from this object, and I want to create a new one, which is going to be an universal material, so a standard material. And again, you find many different ways you can start. So you can start with air materials if you need to do air. You can start already by the mix material if you want to mix material together. You can start simple with the diffuse, and this is again when the light is scattered on top of the surface. It's going to give you generally a diffuse effect. Or you may want to start with a glossy, which is the opposite, when the light is not scattered and it looks more specular and like a glass. Or you can use a specular actually, which actually here is a glass material. So if you want to turn your object into a glass. So we're going to experiment more with these basic effects that we already saw, and we're going to add more layers to these basic channels, to these basic layers. So you can see all the channels that you have in the, well, if you want to do something more complex, you can use universal material because it contains all the channels, all the layers, and you can also add more if you want, but you will find everything you need to make any type of Octane material. And these are PBR materials, remember, so physically based render materials. So if I go down, all the way down here, we can see some additional channels or effects or layers, like the caustics when you use glasses, if you want to have like extra effects on the reflections. And when the light passes through the object, it's going to generate caustics, like any transparent objects. And then you can start to use coating. Now coating again is an extra layer on top of what you have done so far, and you can start to mix the roughness of like the basic roughness with the roughness of the other layers, or you can start to mix and blend colors. And later I will show you that you can mix materials, or you can mix like other effects together. So it's just a matter of what node you're using, and you can start simple with simple parameters that you find in the main node, and then you can add more nodes that will help you to blend and mix. So you can see how many are there, and we cannot see everything here, but look just at the procedural maps. Now procedural maps are a lot, so you may want to go one by one. You can use the manual and study them one by one, because they will generate a lot of different effects. Now let's use the noise texture, which is one of the most common, the most popular. So this is going to generate a bump in this case, because I've placed this on the coating bump. So by placing on the coating bump, I can override, or well, actually I can blend the coating bump with the basic bump, which is the one that we worked with in the previous video. So you can create like more layers of bump and more layers of roughness and more layers of specularity and whatever you have here. These are already set up for you. Now this one here is the sheen effect, and you can see it makes the material like shine on what we see from a side. It's kind of something similar to the Fresnel effect, when we can see a different effect of the material by looking at the surface frontally and from a side. So it's going to give this, you see there, that extra shininess on the, in this case, on the seat and on the top parts, so on the surface that are oriented towards the up direction. And of course we can also use a mixture here and use instead of a coating bump, we can use the sheen bump, which is basically similar, but you see it changes slightly. So these are all similar effects, but applied to different channels, they're gonna slightly change the aspect of your object. So it's really important, again, to go there, experiment a lot, and you know, try different things and discover different effects that you may like. So you may like this sheen bump, or you may like a normal sheen without any particular effect, or you can use the standard bump and normal in the geometry properties that we already saw in the previous video. Now in this video we're also going to expand a little bit on the transmission properties, which is important to create sub-scattering effects when the light goes through the surface and is not scattered underneath the above, but underneath the surface. Now these are examples also of sheen material effects. Remember that you can always go on the web and search for sources, resources, and this is the 3D scene that we're using. And in this scene we're going to change, we're going to use these hordes right here, so you can find the links and the author and everything you need if you want to use the same model. So I want to use this model here because it's really simple, and it's going to give us the possibility to test a lot of effects without waiting too much time for the render to be created. And I have a problem here on these boxes. This is a really simple scene that I have started. These are 3 cubes flat, and I flattened out 3 cubes, and it's gonna give me this strange effect. Now when you see these strange shadows happening, it's probably due to the smoothness or the smooth effect. So try with the right click to shade flat, try to convert them into mesh if they're not yet mesh, and then go into the parameters of the object and look for auto smooth or the smooth or the normals parameter. And you can see that just by applying auto smooth we solve the problem, and now they look good. So be careful on the not curvy objects. They could appear strange sometimes because they have a strange smooth effect applied. Now let's import the horse statue. Now we already know